So myself Indu. So today we are going to study the continuing part of our dryer, that is the freeze dryer. In the last we are studying the fluidized bed dryer. We just get to know what is the principle behind the fluidized bed dryer. Fluidized bed dryer is basically works on the evaporation. Okay, the drying is basically done by the heat transfer or the mass transfer. But in the freeze dryer, now we are going to study freeze dryer. It's a completely different process and different approach in the drying mechanism. So where the heat is applied to get dried off any material, here we use the freezing point for the drying. So freezing, basically as the name, it's a freeze dryer. It works on the principle of the, basically first, without any suspense, we get to know the principle behind the freeze dryer. As such, it works on the sublimation. What the sublimation is: solid, liquid, gas. When it's evaporation and hence sublimation. Solid, gas. When the solid particle is directly converted into the vapor is the sublimation, and the dryer is based on this principle where the ice, the solid ice, is converted into the water vapors. Basically, day-to-day life example, if you take the day-to-day life example, camphor is the best example for the sublimation. Camphor we used in our cultural events. So camphor is used. Camphor is an example of sublimation. Directly we have a solid stack of camphor which is directly converted into the vapors due to the heat. Now, but in the freeze dryer, we solidify the liquid and then we dry it out with the heat application. Now, let's draw the freeze dryer, a basic outline how the freeze dryer looks. It's a door, it's a chamber. These are the heating slabs. This is one more heating slab is there. Okay, it's almost completed. It's refrigerant, vacuum, inlet, heating, heating shells, withdrawal and this is chamber. Okay, so now process of the freeze dryer. Pre-treatment, pre-freezing, primary drying, secondary drying, and packing. Now we understand the freeze dryer is worked on the process of the sublimation. Now, first get a brief about the diagrammatic representation. So once, basically on this process. Pre-treatment. Pre-treatment is a process where these bottles content is getting reduced to 30 to 40%, and then it can save the drying time, whether it can take up to the 12 to 24 to 36 hours. It can reduce by the 30 to 40%. Approx we pre-treat the content 30 to 40%. Now we get a concentrate. Then we freeze the concentrate about -20 to -80 degrees Celsius, where below the freezing point we freeze the concentration. Then we apply heat to the 30 degrees Celsius and we dry the mixture for about 3 to 4 hours. Now after the drying, there are some traces of the moisture is remain in the solution. Then we reapply the drying. It is a slow process and it can take up to the 7 to 8 or 7 to 10 hours. Okay. Then we directly pack the ampoules and the vials in the vacuum. Now these are the key cells. First, we manage the vacuum from the vacuum and the isolation pump. We maintain the pressure and then we just freeze these bottles and then apply the heat and continue our drying with the process we just talked about, and then we get a freeze dryer concentrate. It is used for the drying of the vials, ampoules that should be packed in a vacuum packaging, because whenever we use the fluidized bed dryer, it just get the moisture content trapped by the atmosphere. So freeze dryer is used for those who are packed for the moisture free content and should be specialized for the just to maintain the stability of the compound and to free from the contamination of any the sterilized vaccines, antibacterials are used to dry in this process. Now ampoules, vials are to be filled through the fluidized bed dryer. Okay. Application, it can be used for the different applications. Now we talk about the disadvantage. The running cost is very high and it's a very time consuming process. because the normal tray dryers and the spray dryers and the fluidized bed dryers dry out the materials in an interval of 5 to 7 hours, but it can take up to 26 hours, either 1 or 2 days. Okay, it's depending on the solvent. The best part of the freeze dryers are volatile and thermomobile components are not less their characteristics, and they just maintain their sterility and the sterilization from the whole process. So this is the freeze dryer. I hope you understand the drying, size reduction, size separation, mixing,